Then we move on to SQL query. So I basically installed pandas.sql and I imported pandas SQL as PSQL. So basically made a basic query that counts all the survivals by sex. Zero is basically that the males, the total the males, which is like 577, and out of the 577, 109 only survived, while one is says like is includes the women, out of which is like 314, out of which like 233 survived, which is pretty impressive. As basically this shows like there was like courtesy at the time to let the women and the children go, which might explain why the in this case the women have like a higher survival rate as compared to the men. And then afterwards, I made a query for like the average survival age of the survivors. Basically, the query gives us the average age for the survivor as 28, which is pretty young. Then afterwards, I created like a temp df is equal to df.copy, and then I basically said if is passengers column in the PM in the df columns and p class is in df column. Uh, Temporary df is p class equal to 1, temporary df.lock is equal to this, and then this. And then else if PF class is not in the DF columns, it basically prints that you cannot create a PF column from the one hot encoder data. So therefore it assigns a temporary df.p column is equal to 0. Basically what this line of code does is basically it's like reconstructing like the original passenger class information from the one hot encoded columns by having like a passenger column as a single column with like variables such as 1, 2, or 3, which allows for better analysis, and like as it makes the analysis more intuitive and basically allows us to read the results more clearly. So in this case, like if this code basically assumes that all passengers are class 1, and then it by default, and then it sets the passengers to class 2, whether if it's equal to 1, or it's class 3, where if p class is equal 3 is equal to 1. So yeah. Then we're able to see the survival rates for the passengers for the class. Basically, it shows that by for it shows like the that people who are like first class female have like the highest survival rate, followed up by the second class female, and then followed up by the third class females. Basically showing that in this case the females have a higher chance of surviving, as mostly due to the policy of the time of like only allow women and children to escape the vessel first, which shows like there is survival for the women being higher than the men at least. Yeah. And then we move on to like visualizing the results. So I basically imported matplot.lib from pyplot as plt, imported seaborn as scn. Basically, then I created a bar chart by the survival of sex. Basically, you created a bar chart of x equals is female, y is survived, and the data is at df. And then this basically assigns zeros to male, one to female, and then you're able to see this plot, the bar plot here, basically showing like what the SQL thing is earlier, which is like females on average had a higher survival rate as compared to their male counterpart. So then the next bar graph is like the survival rate by the child status, basically showing that children had a higher chance of surviving as compared to adults, which makes sense, as children and women, and in both cases have a higher chance because of the policy of the time. Then we move on to a pie chart, basically showing the overall distribution of the survival data, basically showing that like 38.4% of the people actually survived the disaster, as compared to like 61.6% which didn't.